Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about the new Roja Parfum's release, Scandal Parfum Cologne. So stay tuned for that. If you like the content, guys, hit that like and subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Now, as many of you probably know, Roja Dove recently added to the Parfum Cologne line 4 new fragrances: Danger, Vetiver, Scandal, and Enigma or Creation E. And these go together with the already very popular Elysium from Roja Dove. Now, this one actually I ended up getting a sample of, and it's one that took me a little while to really digest, and I have to say I'm finally ready to do a review of this one, and this is probably one of the better releases in my opinion. So, the biggest thing I'll have to point out about this fragrance is it was a big reminder to me that skin chemistry and on paper is a big difference. Now, when I first tried this on skin, I'll have to say I was pretty disappointed. I got basically a lot of oak moss, and that's about it. A little bit of lemon in the opening, but not much else. Now, I tried this on paper because a lot of people were talking about how much they like it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what this smells like on paper, and after wearing this several times, as you can see, I put a pretty good dent in this, what I think about it on my skin as well, and the type of performance and projection and so far that I get with this. Now, on paper, and even from the atomizer, I have to say this is actually a really beautiful fragrance, and this is why I definitely gave it more of a chance than I would have otherwise. This opens up with this beautiful barbershop vibe, classic type of feel to it, but because it has the additional freshness that Roja was going for with this Parfum Cologne line, it does feel a lot more modern. So I do get a little bit of spiciness from the cardamom, and I get that lavender and a very fresh overall feel. I pick up a little bit of the bergamot as well, which is really nice, and a little bit of the lemon as well. Now, one thing that really makes this interesting for me is that I also get a lot of rhubarb on paper, and that rhubarb has a very nice tart note. And for me, I love fragrances that are tart and sour. I know it's not something that's used a lot, but those two notes or those two kinds of smells really work well for, I guess, my olfactory senses. I do like them a lot. And that rhubarb adds a really nice tart dimension to this fragrance. It really gives it a lot of character and gives it something very different. Now, on my skin, unfortunately, I don't get as much of the cardamom, so I don't really get any spice. I do get a lot of oak moss right up front. I do get lavender as well, and it does have a nice freshness. I will say the lemon is way stronger as well on my skin, so I don't get as much of the bergamot, maybe just a hint of it, and as well with the rhubarb, just a hint of it, which is unfortunate because that's probably my favorite part of this fragrance is the rhubarb, and unfortunately on my skin it doesn't come across very strongly. So to me that is a little bit of a drawback of this fragrance. Now in the Drydown, it is actually similar on my skin and on paper. I get definitely more oak moss. There's still a little bit of a citrusy quality there, so it still has that kind of freshness to it, and it does have just a touch of the rhubarb. The rhubarb definitely lasts a lot longer on paper than on my skin, and it's definitely a lot stronger. So I do wish that aspect would pop more on my skin, but unfortunately it does not. And as I mentioned, I don't get much, if any, of the cardamom on my skin, which is also unfortunate because that spice adds a really beautiful kind of barbershop-esque opening to this fragrance that is really nice. So I will say that this one on paper for me, I would, if it smelled like that on my skin, I would probably totally buy this one. The longevity with this one on paper is extremely long, so I would say well over 10 hours with this one. On my skin, I get around 8 hours. This might be one that actually, for me, would be better worn on clothing because not only does it make it last and project a long time, but because it doesn't mix with the skin chemistry to the same way, it will stay a little bit more of what I'm smelling on paper. At least I think that's a suggestion for me, something I might try doing going forward because I do really enjoy this fragrance on paper. Now, again, on skin I get about 8 hours, which is actually pretty good longevity, especially for this kind of fragrance that definitely has that fresh edge to it. And projection is pretty good for about 2 hours. It's never really something that's beast mode to me, so it does have nice projection for the first few hours, a nice scent cloud, a nice scent bubble. After that, it does sit a lot closer to the skin for me. It is a lighter fragrance, and so it doesn't really push off like crazy. So that's definitely something to be aware of if you're trying this fragrance out. At least for me, if you want something that's absolutely beast mode, this is not going to be the fragrance that you're looking for. But it does have some nice sillage, it does have a nice presence, and it's a very nice, long-lasting, fresh fragrance. Overall, this fragrance is definitely a reminder that you always want to try things on skin because they do smell different. As I mentioned, if this smelled on my skin like it does on paper, I would probably buy this right away. As it is now, I do enjoy this fragrance. It is nice, and I think it's definitely going to be something I pick up in the future. But there are fragrances that I will end up buying definitely before this one. Especially when the price point is considered, it's definitely something that I'm going to put on my list, but for later on. All in all, if you're looking for a more modern take on Scandal, if you're looking for something that has that barbershop vibe, if you're looking for something with a little bit of intrigue, because it does have that rhubarb note, I definitely recommend trying this one out. I do enjoy it, and it's actually one of my favorites from the Parfum Cologne line. I do enjoy this one quite a bit, so make sure you check it out. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.